Megan. I am going to turn this timer off and I am going to say hello. Thanks for tuning in to my live stream, lunchtime live stream. Today is a part 2 because we are going to finish up the Bardon Dress. It's a pattern that I downloaded for free, and hopefully you did too, over on the Peppermint Magazine website. It's a project that's put together by Spoonflower, was one of the sponsors of it, and Elbe Textiles. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But we are finishing up the Bardon Dress. Last week we did the bodice, which I have here. And you can watch the part 1 as a video over on YouTube. Well, you're on YouTube right now, you're watching this. And you can watch that and catch up if you haven't done it already. But today what we're going to do is work on these tiers. So these tiers are basically rectangles that have lots of gathering to kind of give it that flowy look. The pieces are actually that we've cut are much wider than that top bodice piece, so they have to be gathered so they fit together on each tier. The other thing that we're going to work on today is these pockets. There's nice giant pockets in this dress. So that's going to be the first step, is we're going to sew the pockets to the second tier. So I'm actually looking at the instructions, and I'm over on page 12, and it's the second part of step 6. Step 6 starts with finishing the edges of the pockets, which you can do if you have a serger. You can just serge around them, or you could zigzag around them. I'm going to skip this step for now because I can do it after. And I'm going to go right to placing the pockets onto tier 1. So here we go. I'm going to just switch the camera view. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to say, in case you don't know me, I am Megan from Hipstitch Academy, and I teach people of all ages how to sew, both in person and on video and on Zoom classes with live instruction. We have a website over at hipstitch.co, and you can see our entire schedule there and all the classes that we have on video. And I do this lunchtime live stream once a week, Mondays at 2 o'clock. I try to start right on time, and I go for an hour. And a lot of times it's a part 1 and a part 2, but you can always go and watch the recording. So just wanted to get that in there. And now we can start to work on these pockets. Okay, so where's my tier 1? Here it is. So it's basically just a large rectangle, and I'll back that camera up a little so you can see more of what is happening. But just like in the picture, I'm going to put a pocket. I have 4 pocket pieces, so I kind of have to make sure that when I put it on, I can put right sides together, meaning the right side of this touching the right side of the tier. And there are notches on the pattern. I'm sort of just placing it on where I think it goes, although I do want to make sure that they all go at exactly the same spot. So I'm going to grab a small ruler and make sure here we go. Maybe not a small ruler, maybe a giant ruler, but you want to make sure that wherever you put them, you can put them on the notches, but wherever you put them, they match on every single piece. So I'm going to put them 2 inches down from the top of tier 1, and I'm going to pin. And I'll pin a couple of pins. So I've got some really short pins. And then same thing over here on the other side. So making sure that I'm 2 inches down. I guess I could use my grid that I'm on, but that's fine. Let's see, 2 inches down, put the pocket right there. And then the same goes for the other tier and these other 2 pockets. So I will put these over by the sewing machine. And here's my other tier. I'm trying to see. Do I have my print? Yeah, I think I'm good. Okay. So same thing. 2 inches down from the top. Find my hidden ruler. Cool. And then when we sew it, we're going to sew very close to the edge using about a 1/4 inch seam allowance just down the side of each of the pockets, sewing it to the tier piece. So once again, 2 inches down, right about here. And yeah, we want it to be pretty close to the edge. So I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And let's see here. Get my sewing machine camera. Maybe. Ooh, look at that. There it is. So there it is. Sewing machine, full picture. Starting with the one over here. I'm just sewing the edge of the pocket to the edge of the tier where I just pinned them all. And backstitching is a great idea. I can go, it doesn't really matter the direction, so I'm going to flip to the other side and I'm going to start at the bottom of the pocket. Go up. And same thing on this one. My pins are kind of in, so I was just sort of avoiding them. Not even really having to take them out. And same thing over here. Well, I'm gonna have to take my pin out. Okay. So now that we've got these pockets on, what we want to do, I'll take those last ones out, is flip out the pocket on each side and then put the other tiered piece with the pockets on top. So you're lining up the edge of the tiered skirt piece and then lining up this kind of curvy, almost looks like a lung or something. Line that up. And I'm going to be really careful and pin this really well. Okay. And then where you sew on this is sort of important as well. So here, this little 2 inches of straight need to be pinned together. And then I'm going to come down and pin all the way around the curved piece, making sure that the edges are, and this is something you could add to really anything that you do, as long as you remember to put them in before you sew the side seams. Okay. So trying to figure out why the camera did not switch so you could see what I was sewing. That is why I'm sort of pausing, but yeah, it's definitely, I don't know why. All right, I'm gonna keep moving here. So once we've got that all pinned, we're going to sew it. So since it's not going, yeah, weird. I'm like, I do not know why it's not working, but that's okay. Let's see. Go back to we'll go back to this view and see if you can watch what I'm sewing with the camera for right now. Don't know what's going on. It worked fine. I did exactly the same thing last week and it worked just fine. So it's very strange, but we'll have to make it work. So I'm placing the side. This time when I sew, I'm going to use a 5/8 inch seam allowance. I want the seam allowance to be a bit bigger. And oh, I wish you could see a little bit better, but you'll just have to trust me. We're gonna sew down to so that we're past where that pocket starts. Needle goes down into the fabric, and we're gonna turn, start sewing around the actual pocket. So I'm staying at a 5/8 inch seam allowance around the pocket. Let's see here. Well, you can sort of see what I'm doing. Staying along the curve of the pocket. And then once you get back to where you're on the tier, put the needle down, lift your presser foot, and turn everything. And so the bottom of the tier. Okay. Just gonna try one more thing. See if I can get it to work. Bear with me. 2, 6, 8, 6. Let us see if, yeah, I can see that my other one is working. So instead of looking at my face, put that in a little, there we go. Yay. Okay. Now we have a camera on the sewing machine. Very cool. Okay, Thanks for bearing with me. I thought I could make that work, and somehow I have. So I am going to take the fabric off the machine and show you the other side, because this is kind of a step that you need to see kind of what is happening. So this is the top of the tier. What I wanted to show you is that you're gonna sew down until you're about 5/8 of an inch past where this pocket starts. Presser foot can go up, needle stays in, and then you're lined up and ready to sew with that same seam allowance around the pocket. And then all the way around that curved pocket piece. Straightens out, and we're gonna sew back onto the tiered skirt piece. Needle goes down, presser foot can go up, so you can pivot and then sew to the bottom. Okay, let's go back to the overhead camera. And you can see you've got these really distinct corners. And what you want to do with these corners is cut into them just so there's a little more wiggle room. And you can make some little cuts around the curve of the pocket too. It's always a good idea anytime. Well, I guess it doesn't matter so much on the pocket because it's not going to be turned right side out, but definitely where there's a 90-degree angle where you made a corner, snip into that corner. Okay, so I'm just going to do that real quick on the other side. Snip, and do one here and one here. Then I want you to turn the skirt right side out. Okay, and the pocket doesn't actually flip right side out, so it stays inside out and it's inside the skirt. So you've got this nice, beautiful pocket on one side, and you've got this really great pocket over here on this side as well. All right, so there is tier 1 of our skirt. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to gather the top. So that's why I didn't have the pocket start right at the top, because we want to put some gathers all the way around the top. And we're going to do that by changing the sewing machine to the largest stitch length, and we're going to go around the top of the tier twice, very close to the edge, within a 1/4 inch of the top edge. Okay, so I'll go over to the machine camera and I'm gonna switch my stitch length up to 6, the largest that my machine goes, and I'm going to start at the top of this tiered piece, right on the side seam. So I'm going to back it up a little bit. There we go. And I'm very close to the top. Got all these pins just rattling around here. And we're going to go until we come back to where we started. And we're back. So don't backstitch, lift your presser foot and cut a nice long tail onto the project. Next time around, we're going to go just below it. Still staying really close to the top, but not crossing over the original stitching. Up, pull it off. Okay. Now we've got our basting stitches. We want to find the tail ends of these basting stitches, and we're going to use both ends. So I'm going to start by grabbing the 2 tail ends from this side, the back side, and start to pull and gather. And I'm going to do the gathering for the back with these 2 tails. And then I'm going to grab the threads on the front for this side. And you can gather those. This one is going to be a pain. Maybe I'll start in the back. It's just a lot to gather them all from one. So let me see if I can get this one going. Oops. There we go. you break it at the beginning, you can undo some and then start gathering. There we go. So that's going to be my front. These threads, I'm controlling the gathering on the back. So let me continue that because I have to get all the way over to the other side seam. So you have to kind of do that and work your way over. And don't pull too hard because you don't want to break the two threads. So you're just sliding the fabric over those threads. And then I'm going to get a little bit further, but then I'm going to grab the bodice just to see how wide this piece has to actually gather down to, because we need that to fit with the bodice. So here's my bodice. It looks like I'm getting close. So my side seams need to match up with my bodice side seams. So I'm actually a little bit too much, so I can pull that out a little. And make that a little bit longer. This is probably the hardest part of this project, is just getting these gathers right. All right, I'm gonna open it up more. Guess I got a little carried away and did a little too much gathering. Okay, that's looking better. Still got a little ways to go. Okay, I'm gonna say that's pretty good. Okay, that looks pretty good. So same thing on the back. I'm just going to kind of be gentle and not move around any of those gathering, any of that gathering. Find the two threads over here and start to gather those. And I like to try and get it all the way to the other side, or else it's going to wind up being uneven. So right away, I like to get it over to the other side, because you want every part to be a little gathered, at least, you know, you want the gathering to be even. So what's it looking like? Oh, I think we're there. All right, cool. And then when we go and put this tier with the bodice, if it's not completely as big as the bodice, we can kind of stretch it out while pinning it to the top. So let's do that. I'm going to go inside and flip so that the gathered tiers and the bodice are right sides together. And I can still kind of see my crease. Actually, you know what? No, don't match up the middle. It's better to match up the side seams. So I've got my side seam here, the one with the pocket in it, and the side seam of the bodice. And that will get pinned together. And then the same thing will happen on this side. So find the side seam of, and I've lost track what I'm doing here. Let's see. The side seam of the bodice is inside the side seam of the skirt, or the skirt tier, and the side seams are matched. And I'll stick a pin there. And I can kind of see what I have to work with here. It's looking pretty good. Just match up this middle. And continue to pin it all the way around. All right, same goes for this portion. And on to the back. And the last quarter of the dress, bodice and tier. Oh, there you go. Can be come together here. And the next step is, you guessed it, we're going to sew it together. So you can come back over to the sewing machine. I will make sure you can see that, and I'm going to place it so that the gathers are up. And I'm going to move well, first of all, I'm going to put my stitch length back to 3. And I'm going to move my needle all the way over to the left, because I want to make sure that I sew just below where the gathers are. So I'm sewing like right here. The gathers are like right here. Making sure that and if it feels like one spot is like way more gathered, you can kind of adjust. So they kind of feel a little more even. Oh, sorry, my hair was. I'm just constantly turning. Oh, some dog sneezes happening behind me. It's finally spring here, I think. Maybe that's why. How And finally back to where we started. Pull that off. Let's take a look. The most exciting thing to see how the gathers look after you've sewn them. Not bad. Look pretty even. I'll be honest. I think my piece, my tiered piece, I wasn't quite as long as it should have been. I sort of ran out of fabric. You'll see on my next tier, I even had to substitute a different fabric, which it's undecided whether or not I like that together, but you'll see what I mean. Anyway, I feel like maybe if it had been a little more gathered, that would have looked better, but and it also looks like it's going to be really loose fitting, which is kind of fun because it'll just be, I think it'll be like a bathing suit cover up. All right, cool. So there is tier 1 sewed to my bodice, pockets accessible. Okay. Now we've got our last 2 pieces. This one is noticeably shorter. You can see I pieced some things together to make that work, and then added a little color blocking of this really great turquoise bluish green. I guess it's kind of green aqua. I don't know what color it is, but I thought it looked pretty cool together as like a little color blocked hem. So we've got tier 2. It needs to be sewn together on each side. There's no pocket in it, obviously. It just needs to be sewn together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So putting some pins, I will pin that. Wow, it really flew by today here. But I think I'm gonna finish, aside from maybe the hem, which I might just do as a video because I think I want to try it on, and I don't want to do that in the live stream. So I think I'll try it on and decide where I want the hem to be, and then hem that. My goodness, I almost feel like I could wear it like that. It's a little short. I'll add another tier. Okay. Lined up. Pin together. And we're going to sew each of these sides with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'll start over here. My needle is all the way to the left still, so it might be slightly bigger than 1/2 inch, but who really cares? Because at this point, it's just going to be gathered to fit tier 1 to tier 1. So slightly bigger than 1/2 inch is totally fine. I really love is this orange stitched on this kind of greenish fabric. It looks really pretty. Orange thread. Okay. So guess what? Now we have to, well, we'll turn it right side out. I think. There we go. And just like we did with tier 1, we're going to gather tier 2. And we're going to do it the same way. So we're going to go around the top, 1/4 inch from the top, 2 lines of basting stitching, which means the highest stitch length that your machine does. And we're going to start at the side seam and go all the way around to the other side. Let me start here. And if you remember this, it's great. Pull your thread really long, and that's going to help. When I had that trouble at the beginning, I didn't do that. So maybe this will help. Oh, and I'm also going to not have my needle all the way to the left. I'm going to move the needle all the way to the right. I forgot to change my stitch length. Hold on. You're not the only one. Okay, so I'm going to actually pull this off. Oops. Or cut it and then pull the stitching out so I can start again. Because I do not want it there when I go to pull my gathering. Okay. Changing my stitch length. Try that again. That's more like it. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop basting at the other side seam. Since this is like so long, I want to be able to both baste from both the left and right. So I'll show you what I mean. Here is my side seam. You can tell because I have the seam on the green as well. Stop here, pull it off, nice long tail, and then literally pull it again. Start right where I left off. This way I have a little more flexibility when I pull my threads to gather. Okay. Up, cut my thread, start again, do everything a second time right below. And believe me, I used to think, oh, I can just do one line of stitching and gather it. The gather looks so much better if you have 2 lines of stitching to gather. And there we go. Pull it off. Nice long tail. Pull this long. And start again. It's going to use a lot of bobbin thread. All right, we're back to where we started. Pull it off. Cut. And let's go. Gather. So no, I'll just put that there. Here we go. I've got my threads on the outside and I'm going to pull it until about the middle, because then I can pull it from the other side and then they can scrunch in. It makes it a little easier. So I don't want to go nuts. Actually, I kind of put this out in front of me, then I can see. I don't have that much to gather. Oh my goodness, I have barely anything. So I need to slow down this gathering because it's not going to be that much as it turns out. Here's the other thing that's nice about, you know, having the option to pull from both ends. If you can't get this one going, you can always just continue. But let me see. That's the back. Ran into each other. Here we go. I mean, I think that is about all the gathering that really needs. I did this one the right size. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of gather to it at all. And I think it's just going to wind up looking really big and bulky, but okay. Let me flip. Some projects we love, others need a little bit more TLC, because I think I can make this work, but it's not going to happen in today's live stream. I shouldn't be pessimistic about the project, but just feel like it needs to kind of well, let me keep going. This does make lots of threads though. And that. Gather. Okay. Side seams are here. I don't know. All right. Again, put right sides together and start at your side seams. So I'm going to pin here. And pin all the way around. Oops, before I do that, I'm going to pin this side. So once again, side seam and side seam pinned together. I'm just going to look at the instructions here because it just feels like my tier 2 is not needing to be very much gathered. Let me just see what it says. Maybe I'm missing something. No, it just says the same exact thing as when you sewed a tier 1. So I'm going to continue. It's like barely gathered and it's more like, I guess it's all right. Okay. Pinaroonies, where are they? There they are. The balls of my pins are up because it's just more comfortable pinning that way. But since I'm going to sew with this side up, should be fine because I'll be able to take them out as I go around. And I'm going to flip. Try and get, there's a lot of extra fabric, which means less gathering, which means it's not gonna look as nice. All right, we're almost there. Stick one more pin in. I also think this is going to wind up like a maxi dress. It just seems really long. Okay. Let's do it. So this gigantic circle. This is definitely a fabric user. Okay. This is going back to my regular stitch length. And for me on this machine, it's 3.0. My needle is in the middle, but I want it to be all the way that way. That? Yes. And I'm going to sew all the way around. And I'm sewing slightly below my gather stitching. It is so much fabric. Don't tell anyone I'm sewing over the tips of my pins. Oh, I'll take that one out. I've only made it halfway. I'm running over time. And I'm back. Okay, back stitch. Pull it off. Head back over to this camera. Like a gown. That's the back. Yeah, this. I don't know, kids. Whoa, I got a lot of threads hanging off. I'm gonna hold it up. God, it's like gigantic. I think, oh yeah, and it's like super long. Oh, I don't know. My size, but I think it's gonna look kind of like a tent dress. So there it is. What is it called? I get all the names mixed up. The Bardon Dress. I'm gonna try it on. I'm gonna play around with it, figure out where I want the hem to be. But literally, like, it's so long. I don't know. Gosh, maybe I will just keep it the first tier, and then it will be like a little mini. Oh my gosh, it'll easily be big enough. All right, I'm gonna play around with it. I will do a video of what I do to work on it. If you're making this with me, I hope it turned out for you. I don't know, just I'm not loving it for me, but hey, I haven't made this before. All of these live streams that I do are literally on the fly. So it's kind of fun. I'm going to figure out how to make it work because I hate to just have, trash a sewing project because I don't like it. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I'm 4 minutes over, so I'm going to say goodbye and I will see you.